Welcome to Keys to Success, the podcast where we dive deep into New Mexico real estate, business, and investment. I'm your host, Josh Waters, here with Jeremiah Bitsui, all around great guy, businessman, entrepreneur, and actor as well. Well, thanks for coming and hanging out with me today, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate
no
it.
problem.
Super excited to have you on, get to talk to you. So
Thank you, brother.
first, for those people out there that don't know who you are, why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction on yourself and your background in business?
Cool. Yeah. So I'm Jeremiah Bitsui. I'm Navajo, Dene, Omaha. From part of my people are from the Southwest. Here, we're the largest tribe on the Dene side, the largest nation, and indigenous nation here in the U.S. And then Omaha, Nebraska, with my other side of my family. And I started fairly young. I grew up like a lot of res kids. I think there's a good show out right now called Res Dogs. Go watch it. I'm not on it, but still watch it. And it paints a great landscape as far as the growing pains, the things, the challenges. It's. I don't mean this in a wrong way, but it is really a third world living situation. Which is not really ever been truly addressed. Currently, as far as infrastructure, everything, we're still very behind. But moved out for the res. My family wanted me to have a better opportunity. We moved here into New Mexico, Albuquerque, and I lived here from 10 to 18, and then moved to Los Angeles. My first job was at Sweet Tomatoes, and then I went over to MCI, and that's really where I started. I got interested in sales and got interested in business, and got involved with a few multi-level marketing companies, had a little success as a young guy. But the biggest thing was sales. That's what really stood out to me, is I thought, if I could focus and I can focus on my product and really if it's something that I can believe in, it's not necessarily as a sell. It's correlating that focus to what is a common want or need. And sometimes it's not. So from there, that helped me start my first business at 19. I wanted to move to Los Angeles. I'm probably like you and a lot of young people who don't have a college fund, or don't come from money. And so my parents said, "Hey, we support your dreams. We love all the things that you want to do, and we'd love for you to go to UNM or CNM, but that'd be great. But we can't support you if you go out of state. That might be harder for us." So started my first business, and that allowed me to launch from that point. And we were operational, successful for about 5 years. And then the market turns, and I wasn't ready. I was still learning. So that was my first venture, and I consider it a success because it got me out, got me through college, supported myself and a handful of other students.
Yes. Well, and I mean, sometimes failures are your greatest success, right? Because you learn the most
Absolutely.
from them. And I love that you put sales in there. I'm obviously big sales guy.
Yep.
I'm about it.
Yeah.
I think everything stems from sales.
Yep.
No matter what business you're in.
Absolutely.
If you're not going to be a good salesman, and it's like it become a dirty word, which drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's not. You're a guide.
Yeah.
You're a helper.
Yeah.
So how did that sales background lead you into, and what are you into now? What's your current business? What have you been into lately?
Okay. So the just like as a progression, I got involved with, once I was in LA and my business fell flat, I moved back here for a little bit. Started getting calls, oddly, I moved to LA to become a director. Left LA, and the opportunities that were calling were more actor related, which was interesting. I had friends that were directors, producers, and they were just like, "Hey, we'd love for you to be a part of our project, but as an actor." I was like, "Okay." Things were flat at the time, but that got me back into LA, and that got me into a startup, on the independent film side. That lasted for a few years. The model, I think, was good, but it was just a little premature for what it was trying to do. And then I started current company, Bitco. We are a general contractor. We focus on innovative construction technologies. We have a lot of rural clients, a lot of indigenous clients, and therefore we need competitive advantage when it comes to pricing, because a lot of people price gouge our community, and being rural is hard because it's hard to get people to show up to work, especially when your nearest hotel is a 100-mile round trip. Hard to keep people motivated, and when it's rural. So we do a lot of pre-engineered and modular. So that led me into the current business, and that's what that's kind of where I've grinded my teeth on that, and now into other things. But yeah, that's really I have a big respect for anything in trades, anything project driven, just because that's what I know. There's other businesses that I'll probably get into in my life, but have a big motivation and respect for that. That production driven landscape was something I've always been interested in. That's what got me interested in being an actor. A bunch of renegade people coming together, creating a base camp out in the middle of nowhere, bringing all their resources, creating this little city, and utilizing that to make a product. And that's basically that's been a big keystone for my career.
Yeah. So kind of going back to at the beginning, and I know you've started multiple businesses like you kind of have done a lot. So I feel like the biggest thing for a lot of people is that just getting out there, just
getting started,
taking that jump, leaving your 9 to 5. And we all know that sometimes you work 80 hours a week to not work your 40-hour 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So what was it for you that, I know you kind of talked a little bit on, you wanted to go to college, you wanted to get out there, but what was maybe your biggest fear? I'm sure you still have some of those fears today with being an entrepreneur, being a self-starter.
Yeah.
That some people may be dealing with, that it's maybe not be as scary as you make it in your head.
Well, I think a big fear has always been, I have no fear when it comes to sales. I've always had a fear when it's come to managing people. And I think I'm a better leader. I think I have had to bring on other people that are better managers and better at facilitating that. I think some of my output or what I have to say is a little bit more high level sometimes, or inspirational. And I think managers are better at delivering tasks and some of those objectives. So that's been a fear, and I've had to work on overcoming that. Also, oddly, just you mentioned 9 to 5, the programming that you get as a kid, we don't really ever talk about it, but it is daunting. If I didn't start at 19, just like diving head first, and in some ways I was kind of foolish and just jumped in. But if I didn't do that, I may have not been the same path. But just that fear of failure kind of drove me. But I was so programmed to get up, go to school, have a routine. And so that's what I would do. And then when it came to me selling my first business, getting on the phone and selling, I'd have a notebook, and I'd just have my own log, because I didn't have any fancy system. And I would I'd have my call sheets, and I'd just call people. Hey, I'd make a contact, and then I'd go from there. And I just basically telemarketed my first company. So that's always been a strength, but yeah, the fear is that I'll fail. And luckily I've been going at it, knock on wood, 24 years now, which is crazy to think about. Yeah. But, failure is part of it, I think, is just the failing up thing. You hear a lot of these things on other podcasts, but it's like, what does that mean? Or how do you get out? It's a baby step, maybe I one time I explained it to someone. I said, hey, if you have dough and you have sugar, and I know there's more that comes to a cookie, but you put a cookie together and it came from that product which costed you $10, and you made $50 or $100 out of it. That's the concept. Start there, start small, start selling to your coworkers, start selling to people in your neighborhood, and take that same model. Yeah. That's kind of been how I've retransferred my fears in making things more palatable, I guess you can say.
Yeah, and I love that you touched on roles, right? And so you kind of recognize, and I think you probably recognize young, and it takes people a long time to recognize, things that they're good at, and things that they suck at. I feel like a lot of times as an entrepreneur, you're like, I'm going to take it all, I'm going to be I got to put on my marketing hat and then my manager hat and then this. And it took me a long time, almost a decade to figure out, like, there's some stuff that I'm terrible. I suck at it.
Yeah.
And I need to bring somebody onto that role that's going to be able to, support me. And I think that's a big, like, leadership style, is bringing people on that are going to be able to support you properly. So how was that transition for you? Because I know you did mention that there's some stuff that you're not great at.
Yeah.
And you were able to bring people onto your team, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what was that transition like for you?
It's been like an accordion. So it's been scaling up, scaling down. I think during the pandemic, everyone kind of, it was like that's what it was. Everyone took a big deep breath in, and we all shrunk down and we adjusted from there. So that transition is constant. I think for me, I don't want to waste anyone's time. I don't want to. My fear is not keeping a person busy and being able to fully utilize someone. And so my first assistant, it really helped having her, because she's now a lawyer. Shout out to Shelby, great job. That took some development, in terms of me. It wasn't just her, me developing her and her strengths, but it was also on the flip side, it was her helping me develop my own style, and I thought I got pretty good at it and working with people, and then but that really helped is that one person realizing that there's another person that's also depending upon your needs, the things the needs of the business. I think sometimes there's a doubt, or there's a need to be like, well, this is how you do it, and then getting frustrated and being like, let me just take that, I'll take care of it. Just grab me coffee. That's I think the shortcut. That's the way people short sell themselves in learning in that development. At least I have, I think, quite a bit. Maybe still to this day sometimes.
Yeah, being able to lean on that person and really be like, and learn from them. It's hard, especially when it's something that you develop and it's like it's your baby, right? You built this, you struggled, blood, sweat, tears into this thing.
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, maybe we could do it this way. And you're, hey, I don't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
And letting them go, because sometimes it's better. I have the same with my assistant.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, she's like, let's do it this way. And I'm like, crap, that's way better than I've been doing it for years. It's so much easier.
And I think it's lowering I don't want to say lowering the expectation, but lowering the bar so people feel like they can, I wouldn't even call it the bar. I guess just making it palatable so people feel like, hey, I can, this person's accessible to ideas, open to thoughts, and now it's like what I'm trying to do is get to work with people and being more dynamic, like, hey, check in with this guy, I'm here. But that's another thing I think is an entrepreneur you could become, or small business owner, you could become the funnel so everybody comes to you, but the minute they kind of start getting to rely upon each other, you'd be amazed. There's brilliant things done, and you're just like you said, people are way smarter than me. I couldn't have figured that out. I'm good at the one thing, getting on the phone and making sales or putting things together, and people celebrate or has the ability to do HR, and the other thing is the strength now we have as a business or small businesses to bring in and subcontract other parts of our business, putting that out. So you could hire a receptionist service. You don't always have to have a receptionist right physically in your office. Yeah. That's one thing I had as a competitor one time where we were out, I think at a conference or something, and I was like, hey, call my office, because it was like, well, we were kind of jostling it. I was like, okay, call our office. Like, yeah, no way, your office is open. Called our office. We had a 24-hour receptionist service. Hey, Bitco Corporation, how can I help you? And they're like, oh. And makes you look a little bigger, but that's
yeah, it's that whole adage. Yeah. Old adage. People don't care what you know till they know that you care.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
So you're not only entrepreneur, business owner, actor, director, you are a family man too.
Yep.
You have a family.
Yeah.
So how balancing that?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's an adjustment.
Yep.
Because you've been doing business longer than you've been doing family. So how have you best managed that?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's tough.
It's tough. It is. It's hard. It's the misconception is with entrepreneurs, oh, you don't work a 9 to 5. You can cut out anytime you want. You probably hear this a lot from family. People that don't understand but that are close to you, and maybe they try to push things towards you because they think you're flexible. You can do whatever you want. Not realizing, I'd see you at the gym, 5, 6 a.m. That's the time we can grind. That's the time we can get that in. And then that might be the only time that you have during the day for you to take a little time, and the rest, the family is a priority. I think in my own being in my 20s and 30s, I wish I would have prioritized maybe a little bit more of the business. And that's the goal, is when you have a family, at least I feel in retrospect, is that you want the family to be the front priority. You want the business to be secondary, but the business to still be able to support you so that you're not, that you're able to do that. I think that's a definite goal. But as far as managing it, there's no there's no trick to it. It's making sure that you have people that are good, that you trust your kids with, whether if that's on the educational side or on the childcare side, and then making sure you still have that balance to go take them playing and that they can learn things from you and have experiences with you. That's huge. I think I'm learning how important that is, how valuable, especially with my second one now.
Yeah, it's a different learning process. I think the best, somebody had described it to me before I had kids, when I was with our first, is you now have 3 jobs. You get up in the morning and you clock in and you do your job that that provides income and provides for your family, and then you get off and now your job is dad. You've clocked out, you clock in as dad. Your job is to play, do whatever, kids, and then put the kids to bed. You clocked out, and now you've clocked in as husband, and now you're putting towards your wife, your relationship, and then you get to sleep. And that's why you said we're at the gym at 5 a.m. because you can either sleep that whole time, or if there's other stuff that needs to get done, you wake up and get it done.
Yeah, you're right. And for married people, of course, I don't have all the answers, but you're right. I mean, that the honing of your significant other, the prioritization of making sure there's time. My wife and I, we don't get a lot of spare time, but if we get a chance to sneak out, we'll sneak out into the living room and play a little Call of Duty. And she realized, like, oh, okay, shoulder to shoulder time, it's important. That's like something that I think men were more used to. Women are more used to doing this. That, of course, that may be a stereotype. That may be a wrong stereotype, but I think for most men, at least, the guys that I know, we talk like this. We're doing something, or we're watching a game, we're playing video games, and she loves video games, and I do as well. And she's better actually at Call of Duty than I am, but we get in there and we do that, and just that little bit, it helps. Finding out, hey, how's your day? What's going on? Like what are the challenges? What's your favorite part of the day? Tell me where you're at.
Yeah. And I think that's huge, right? And having that, even if it's small, just schedule it, put it in there, get it done.
Correct. Yeah.
So I know you're a busy guy. You got other appointments. I got a couple rapid fire questions.
No problem.
While we wrap
up.
So I did not prep you for these. These are totally off the cuff.
All right.
Okay. So if you had one talent that you don't now, that you wish you had, what would that talent be?
Wow. I don't know if it's a talent as much as it is a skill. I think definitely that recreationally, the talent of the golfing is a talent I wish I was a little better at. A skill that I'm working on is, like, my dad was, he passed 2 years ago, you might remember, and he was so great at listening, and he was so great at engaging, and he was so good at just being here, and he would listen 80% of the time. He'd talk maybe only 20 or 10%. it was pretty crazy, but I'm working at getting better at that.
Yeah, that's definitely a skill.
It's a big one.
I said this morning when prepping for this kind of stuff, I was like, I told my wife, I really need to learn to just shut up and listen a little more.
Shut up and listen, yeah.
And I was expecting the wife response of, no, you listen great. And she was like, kinda. I was like, oh, no. Not what I was expecting, but okay. Now I know. Now I know the little things.
Yeah.
So if you could go back in time and tell your younger self one thing, you have like one fraction, like to give them a little advice, what would you give your younger self?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. You know, I would just say that just the fact that I would say to get some counseling, you know, and you know, get through some of the traumas. I think we all have trauma. We all process things differently. For me, you know, counseling's been important. Faith, spending time in that, and prayer. That's been important. Meditation, like those things have been game changers. When you're young, you want to be everywhere, and until you're everywhere and you realize that you're nowhere, then you realize, oh, okay, things need to change. And I think I had to learn that lesson. Hey, I'm everywhere. Like for a while, I would take every invitation. I had a friend that actually called yesterday and said, "Hey, there's a golf tournament in Miami. Would you like to be a part of it?" You know, and really great guy. And I was unfortunately, I had to say no. I'm sorry, I can't make it. But when I was younger, I'd been like, "Yeah, sure, I'll be there. I'll make it work, even though it's impossible schedule-wise. I'll change some things, change my priorities a little bit. Boom, I'm there."
Yeah.
That is a big one. You know, you don't realize where you need to be, and that you're maybe nowhere until you're everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, that's a hard one to learn without really going through it, I think. Yeah.
So, best piece of advice somebody's given you, and who gave it to you?
Bryan Cranston, this is on tape. He caught me off guard. I asked him, I said, what's the secret to being a good father? And he said to me, treat the mother well, the best that you possibly can. Treat her, honor her, you know, hold her up. And I was just like, literally, it was like, I was stunned, you know, just like, I've learned a lot from guys, other, you know, actors. You know, you never know where the advice will come from, but that was a big one. That was the game changer.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
So,
especially as a new dad.
Yeah, Cranston, man, he's hilarious, great drama, and apparently super deep as well.
Yeah. I've seen him.
Awesome dude. So, what book influenced you the most?
Oh, wow. I think my first real read on nonfiction was Think and Grow Rich. And I know that's kind of a cliche, but there's a lot of little nuggets in there, you know, things that you can still go back to and read. And I need to, there's a book I'm reading right now called One More. Millette, I think is his last name for sure, but it's called One More. Okay. And it's just about like taking that one more step that normally other people wouldn't, you know. Other day I was in the office sitting there, and I was with my assistant, and we were talking, and he was like, "Oh man, yeah, let's wrap it up." You know, it was a good point. We could have just wrapped it up. I was like, "Oh, we got that one thing." It's like, "Yeah, we'll do it in the morning." I'm like, "Let's just knock it out now." You know, we'll be that much more ahead. And it was a good feeling, I think, that we both got, was just that one more chance to knock it out. You know, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, especially as a father, you know.
Yeah, it's a roll with the punches kind of business, right?
Yeah.
So you may have seen this one coming, but what would you say your key to success is, if you had to sum it up quick?
I'd say key for me has always just been, you know, going and being somewhat relentless in a way that I think, like, I don't know, I try not to be complacent. I've been working on really hard, and it's always not been a strength, but it's become a strength of realizing, hey, you're not the top guy, you know, like you're not you're not such a big dog, you know. And like you said, sometimes your wife will help you bring you back down to earth, and that's helpful. I think that perspective of there's a balance of where I'm trying to be, where I'm not like thinking of myself down here, I'm not thinking of myself up there. I'm just kind of like, I'm a guy, and I happen to do this work, and I happen to, you know, this happens to be what I'm doing, and happen to have a meeting over there right after I end this, you know, and it's like not thinking like, oh, like, here we are, we're in some nice restaurant, and you know, I'm really great, and I really got all of the, you know, I did something right. Like, no, I think it's just the fact of the matter. I do this, you know, and sometimes I'm an idiot. I make mistakes like everyone else, and try to own them as quick as they happen, you know.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming hanging out with me today.
Thank you, Josh.
That was awesome, man. So much good information, so much to break down and learn in there. Jeremiah Bitsui, everybody, killer all around guy.
Thank you, brother. I'll give you an outro. Watch
yeah.
Keys to Success with Josh Waters. Really a great guy, and I've known him for a number of years, since he was a young guy, and it's wonderful to see what you've become.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
All right, man.
All right.
Bye.